I was a young boy. I just wanted to hustle and make the money. But I learned very fast. There's no energy that makes the most money. I took to the streets, bro. I had to learn that the first thing I can engage is my energy because no one was there to hear what I had to say. There was no influence in whatsoever capacity. So the only thing I could extend was my energy. And you always say the lowest hanging fruit was to engage the services of a bus driver. And I was his conductor. I was going from Songo all the way to Canaan Land. I was paying 500 naira per day. This was 30 years ago. Like, that was the first money I ever earned that I worked my sweat with. I was speaking English too. Oh, please pass me your money at the back. Can you guys organize them? I was there. But eventually, I got into character. I'm not going to pass on the money for back. And I did that just for about to be honest, just 2 weeks. It was almost like a social experiment because my parents must never know that I did that. The bus door fell. I could have fallen with that bus door. It was hazards of the trade. I could have just been maimed for life. That was the last day I did that job. I left there and I started working in a pure water factory. So that whole 3-month period was just experimental for me. I was working in a pure water factory and I was being paid 450 naira per day at the time, which was interestingly $3. At that time, there was a program called Shiloh in Kenaland Ota. And the last year I had heard. So I began to understand problem solving. You see the journey? At Shiloh last year, there was water scarcity. They didn't have enough water for the 300,000 people that came for it. I said, so if this is going to happen this year again, there's a high chance that they will still need this water at the end of the day. So bro, I took my salary and I bought a truck of water, but I did not know something else. You see, business is warfare. I did not realize that last year they also had seen their mistakes. The Shiloh started, nobody needed my water because they had oversupplied. So no one needed my water. So guess what I did? I had to now find an advantage. I said, if they are selling water, there's one thing they cannot do at scale. They cannot make the water be cold. So I would go 5 a.m. in the morning inside one deep crook in Songwater and buy a bag of water. At the time, a bag of ice block was 1,000 naira. Just 1,000 naira. I'll refrigerate my water and that's how I sold the whole truck. So everyone at every point, no matter where it is you are on the ladder, there are problems there you can begin to solve from where you are. One of the things I knew I had to focus really on was on how to think, because there were not many conversations that were going on concerning how to think. We were taught what to think, but not necessarily how to think. I've had to question myself so much why. If I don't know the why of something, I usually will not engage. Everyone is printing their mind on everything that they are working on. So your best bet and your greatest asset is your mind. So if you can't structure it in a way that it is at best at par with present reality, you always mess up. I don't believe in market saturation. It's a myth. The market is not saturated. If Tesla said they were launching in Nigeria, would you go for the event? Right? You would go. Why?
Elon Musk.
You see that? But not just that. How eager would you be to go if Tesla is launching and their brand manager is coming, Elon Musk is not coming? But let's say Elon Musk is coming. You will strive to go there because Elon Musk is coming. He's the biggest brand ambassador for Tesla. Sometimes the reason you're not selling is not because you don't have value. It's because you don't have influential visibility. Haven't you bought food from someone that you're like, oh, but this your food good though? But I don't know one that knows. It's almost like they're the best kept secret. Business is not meant to be a best kept secret. The core purpose of your personal brand is to create influence by your reach. Don't build a product for a market you're not even aware of. And for the most part, people first build a product and not try to test the market before they start. That's why in startups there are simple things called wait lists to even prove your idea. That distribution before even be your product. The first book I wrote, I hadn't written a word of that book when I started selling it. Not one word. I had about 4,000 or 5,000 guys who were following me at the time. I was sharing knowledge every day. And I put up, hey guys, I'm writing this book called 10x your influence, impact, and income with a personal brand, right? I got a graphics guy, designed this thing. Let me even see how the market will react to it. He designed the book, bro. I got 500 orders in the first month. And I think the book was 5K at the time. I can't remember, right? But you see, when I saw that there was a demand for people who wanted that book, the pressure from the money I've collected forced me to write the book. If you know the consequence of ignorance, you will do everything you can to abolish ignorance. As scripture says that my people, they die because of lack of, and ignorance is not unawareness. It's not the word ignore. It's there, but you're ignoring it. The eventual consequence of that, you see it in the reflection of your life. But you need to be aware of the things you need to be working at, because a lot of people are going nowhere fast, right? And speed is not an advantage if your direction is wrong.
Welcome to the Frankly Business Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you're very much welcome. This is another episode of the Frankly Business Podcast. I'm super excited because it's a great day. I'm saying this because Kelechi understands what I mean by it's a great day. Our guest also understands what I mean by it's a great day. It's an inside code that I'm sure you don't know about that. We know, but you don't know. Someday you'll get to understand. My name is Frank Fagbo, and we are here again. Kelechi, you call the Frankly Business Podcast. You have a lingua. You have a slogan for it. Accessing business education.
Yeah. Always give me heads up so you don't put me on the spot.
So, business education is like you go to a business school, and the first thing you see in the business school, you go to the Stanford, the Harvard, all the top business schools, and what you notice is that you have industry leaders. You're not just being taught by professors, you're taught by industry leaders, people who have been able to put their skin in the game across different industry, that they've trailblazed different sector. They come take you through the ropes and teach you what it takes for you to move your business from point A to point B. Take you through that step, because these guys have been there. And that's what the Frankly Business Podcast is all about. We bring you people who have been there and they've done that. Not just people who come to deliver rhetoric, so just tell you something gotten from textbook. No, but people who have gotten their hands dirty, and perhaps they have the scar to show the badge of what it takes to be a general in the field of business. Kelechi, is that not just what the concept of a business school is all about?
Yeah.
And that's why the Frankly Business Podcast can also be tantamount to being called a business school on social media.
Yeah, but look at it this way. When you see the Ivy League schools very pricey, you ask why. It's because of the access to alumni.
Kelechi money. Igbo man.
You ask why. It's because of the access to alumni they have. They bring them every time to come and talk about different things. So it gives the student the opportunity to be one step ahead from the rest of the world. So we're trying to make it in the podcast settings.
Yeah.
And our guest, I call him the bourgeoisies. The bourgeoisie. Let me remove the S. We are lucky to share the same community, and he's been one guy you call on and say, okay, I have this difficulty, and he's always ready to help. An excellent businessman, a thought leader, a Christian, the man with so many wisdom. Okay, let me pause there. So Frank, you can introduce him.
Oh my. Today is a great day. I'm saying that again because who we have on the famous couch of the Frankly Business Podcast is one man I love to call. He wears so many hats, especially to me personally, and I'm sure you're going to see why he wears so many hats. I call him a mentor, I call him a brother, I call him a friend, I call him a consultant. And when you have somebody who wears so many hats, you only find there are only a few people like that. People who can be there for you at different points in times. But this is not about me. It's really about you. It's really about really understanding and sipping from his cup of thought, trying to understand what is your mental frame. Dave Obada, the founder of Oris. What is your mental frame? What your soul? I don't know how to put it. Like sometimes I ask myself, what do you do? How do you get this wisdom? How do you get these ideas? Like you can't be caught off guard on anything except something you don't want to do. So like it's like, is it a grace? Is it, what did you do? How did you build yourself to be such a person that in all spheres of life, I don't want to use the word perfect because no one is perfect. Absolutely. Everyone, but in all spheres of life, it's like you've been able to crack the code of personal brand, crack the code of business, startup, crack the code of finance, because that's really fundamental. Crack the code of so many things. Then we're talking about being a Christian. We're talking about thought leadership. You're talking about dishing out wisdom and growing community, mentoring people to become better versions of themselves. I think that's something we need to unravel on the Frankly Business Podcast. If you've not shared it anywhere, what is the secret behind your thought process? That is very un-African. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. First, I'm not sure it's me you guys are talking about. The accolades are a lot. I really like that. I think for me, starting up early, one of the things I knew I had to focus really on was on how to think, because there were not many conversations that were going on concerning how to think. We were taught what to think, but not necessarily how to think. And the Bible will tell us, again, I'll always use scripture, as a man thinks in his heart, so see, that heart there is two words, it's a subconscious mind really. So I knew that if I wanted my life to be on overdrive, the quality of what I inject into my subconscious mind has to be very intentional. And that began me diving really deep into understanding how the psychology of men work and me zoning down to myself as an individual. So if everybody is zigging, I'm zagging, right? Until I get proof as to why I should zig with every other person. I don't follow trends. I'm not excited to do, I've never worn a trending cloth before or used the trend. I don't care. I want to know why is this, because behind every trend, and every trend will end, but behind every trend, there's a master that is designing that trend, and his intent is not what most people think it is. So I've tried to pause and reflect and inflect, foresight, oversight. Why is this? Why I've had to question myself so much. Why? If I don't know the why of something, I usually will not engage as much. So I think that helps me form a unique perspective on how I live my life. I'm still cracking the code. We're also going to be cracking the code as we go on. But in the areas where I'm very interested in branding, in building or leveraging technology, I try to know everything about some things in that industry so that I'm never caught on guard. So I could talk, I and my wife can gist about hair, right? I can talk about anything. We talk about relationships. What my core is faith, it's tech, and it's business. And you can't catch me lacking in those areas. I've exhausted materials. I've studied books. I've read great mentors. When I said I've read great mentors, I don't mean I've read their books. I've read their lives. I've gone through the detail of what they are not necessarily saying. And then that will form for you a unique thinking faculty that will help you. Because at the end of the day, you're printing your mind on everything you engage with. I'll share with you a simple analogy of how I've had this shirt for a year now. The moment I give a madman this shirt, he will print his mind on this shirt. It stops being this, it becomes a rag. And everyone is printing their mind on everything that they are working on. So your best bet and your greatest asset is your mind. So if you can't structure it in a way that it is at best at par with present reality, you always mess up. Your finances is a reflection of your mind. Your relationship, everything you do is a reflection of the quality of your mind. There now lies in my why, that my mind has to be fortified. I hope that's kind of like answers the question.
But let's stay on the mind.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation about it. People tell you they are too busy to pick up a book to develop themselves. People tell you that, oh, I work, I leave my house by 6, I get home by 9 p.m. at night. Where is the time to pick up a book to read?
Sometimes they're not lying.
Yeah, if you're a mother, you still have to go nurse your child. If you're a father, you still have to go play with your child. So, and you talk about the formation period of how you need to exhaust material to grow, thinking of how to think.
Yeah.
And so my question is, how do we create that time for self-development? Because it's not at the forefront of any conversation we're having right now.
Yes.
Motivational speakers have been branded a type of way that not everybody want to listen to them. I think a Burna Boy will have a more pull on an average Nigerian than any motivational speaker you can think of. So that shows you the voice is drowning out.
But why can't you have both? Why can't you have motivational speakers and Burna Boy? Because he looks like that Burna Boy. I like that guy.
No, but that
Just
shows you
kidding.
how
Yeah.
entertainment is drowning the need for self-development. I can always escape.
Yeah.
If I'm having a tough day, I put on the music. I've escaped for that day.
Who are you playing?
That's another question for that day. I've escaped for that day. So why should I develop myself? How do I find that time to develop myself?
I really like this question because people ask me a lot of times. As you said, entertainment is a coping mechanism for most people. It's not the root, it's a branch. And most people don't know that the root of why they need to cope has to be dealt with. Right? Why, like you said, you're having a tough day, so music is your escape point. But you can only escape for a bit. No matter the best, if you like, listen to it, even that, you get tired of it, right? And you come back and face your reality. So the root of the problem I've come to realize is people don't know the impact of consequences. Because sometimes consequences are not immediate, but they're eventual. So if you know, and I've seen this happen. Someone says if you're born in Africa, you're already 5 steps backwards, right?
Yeah.
If you're born in Africa as an African, you're probably 10 steps backwards. If you are born in Africa in certain climes, you're like 20 steps backwards. So you wake up fighting. You wake up pushing through.
Odds are already against
unless
you.
you're born into privilege. Even those who are born into privilege in Africa here and those who are born into privilege in other countries, there's a unique, distinct difference because of the quality of our thought processes. If you know the consequence of ignorance, you will do everything you can to abolish ignorance. And scripture says that my people, they die because of lack of... And ignorance is not unawareness. Ignorance is you. It's not the word ignore. It's there, but you're ignoring it. The eventual consequence of that, you see it in the reflection of your life. You can get away with so long, but eventually, because success is predictable. but also it's failure. The only thing with success is you pay the price before. Failure, you pay the price after. Is going to still meet you regardless of who you think you are. So you can get away with certain things you will navigate through life and see that you can pass because you're a child. But as long as you're a child, the things that the world will bring to you, eventually will have to need you to mature. If you stay a child, and those things, you keep on failing because you're not updating the data with. This is an iPhone, whatever it is. Imagine putting an iPhone, the OS of the first iPhone on this phone. It will not function well. Or when people say that when the new iPhone comes out, the previous one begins to work less.
Yeah.
Not because they want it that way, but the update that is required has changed. So of necessity, the previous one will be slower. It will begin to lag because the body was not built for that. So many people are lagging in their lives because they don't know how to update the database that they are meant to run with. You need to make out time for it because ignorance is not you not being aware, it's you rejecting knowledge. Now, there are so many systems with which you can learn from. You don't have to sit and open a book. There are audiobooks. I think audiobooks are the best invention since man developed. But you need to be aware of the things you need to be working at because a lot of people are going nowhere fast. Right? And speed is not an advantage if your direction is wrong because you keep on traveling as fast as you can to have an accident where you're not supposed to even be in the first instance. So me have known that the path I have chosen to be is faith, tech, business, and I said I exhaust resources there. YouTube is your best friend, bro. I spend hours. If you go on my YouTube, you will see hours and hours of content I have watched. I have to learn to multitask. As I'm driving, I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm listening to a podcast, right? I've primed my mind that my escape is not in entertainment. My escape is now to educate or edutain myself. We know some certain podcasts are called edutainment. I've figured out people who have fit my style and I like to listen to these guys. So instead of me listening to, even though I would listen to music every now and then, I'm very careful of, the Bible says to guard your heart. Again, that heart matter is your soul. To guard your soul with how many diligence? All diligence, because out of it are the issues. So I'm very protective. I would not, for instance, listen to some circular guys because I've seen that the thought process that they have when they are writing those lyrics is not impacting my life in any positive way.
Yeah.
So I'm very careful of the information I put in my system. And every time my eyes are guarded, my ears are guarded. So if you cannot use your eyes immediately, you can use your ears. But there's always an opportunity for you to grow. If you know the consequence of not growing, you would of necessity find a way to study.
Let's go back to the roots. And I think it's very interesting for us to go back to the root because a lot of people will feel that, okay, yeah, it's easier to say, it's easier to walk, to talk the part, it's easier to look the part, but you don't know my realities. I'm currently at the bottom of the pyramid. They can term you as the 1% of the 1%, and because in reality you are. But if we look at that, people will not understand what it takes to get to a particular level or the possibility if they don't know the roots, if they don't understand your story. And based on information I have, at a point in time in your life, you were a conductor in Lagos.
Absolutely.
At a point in time in your life, you sold water, and you've become who you are today. I don't know if you get my point.
Yes.
You've become a beacon of hope to hundreds.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put it that way. To hundreds, like direct impact to hundreds. And if you look at that, we need to really understand that growth. How you brought yourself out of that I don't want to say rabbit hole, but out of the bottom of the pyramid that at a point in time you found yourself there. Because a lot of Africans are there and they really feel that, okay, if somebody like you can do it, then I can do it. From there, you went into media, and then you transformed your life. You're in the startup ecosystem now, currently fundraising, doing a lot in the health tech space.
Yes.
See what you're doing across all social media platforms. For you to understand, I'm not just rapping. Go to Dave Obada across all social media platforms and see what we're talking about. You'll be able to understand his thought process and what it takes for you to be a diamond in the rough and literally brush up yourself and become a real diamond. Walk us through that.
I really like that question because most people don't know the process.
Yeah.
There is a huge difference between process and systems. And growing up, I had to learn that difference. So our fathers, to be fair, I would not say I was born into privilege. And in Africa, if you're born into privilege, you have great education and you have access to certain territories, you are 3 steps ahead of every other person. But the thing is, I've seen across some of my friends, there are people with means. Most of their parents don't condense the knowledge required for them to become them. So often, what they leave for them is not as important as what they leave in them. So, but the parents don't have the time to distill this knowledge to them. And my dad was always working, right? My mom was running her business as well. So there was no time. So I figured that if these guys are not talking and they'll give me money, what do I do with the money, right? The first time my parents gave me some money, it was like 50K. I had the money. I was like, what did I engage with the money? My mind at the time was to look good. So I bought clothes, right? Because I didn't know better. So my journey so at one time my dad had a bit of a financial crisis, and then the money stopped flowing as I was expecting the money to flow. I had to figure out what next. And that was a blessing for me. Some of you don't know the blessings in lack, right? Sometimes the best lessons don't come from success. They come from failure. Right? And I had to learn that, okay, now this inflow has stopped coming. What can I do? I took to the streets, bro. I had to learn that, okay, the first thing I can engage is my energy, because no one was there to hear what I had to say. There was no influence in whatsoever capacity, right? So the only thing I could extend was my energy. And the lowest, you always say, the lowest hanging fruit was to engage the services of a bus driver. And I was his conductor. I was going from Songo all the way to Canaan Land. They was paying 500 naira per day. This was many years ago, like 15, 20 years ago. I think this was like 2009, I can't remember. And he was paying 500. That was the first money I ever earned that I worked my sweat with. It was so interesting to me that just to take passengers' money, I was speaking English too. Oh, please pass me your money at the back. Can you guys organize them? I was there. But eventually, Bob, I got into character. I'm not going to pass them the money for back. You know? And I did that for not too long, just for about to be honest, just 2 weeks. It was almost like a social experiment, because my parents must never know that I did that at the time.
So did you know what's the podcast?
You know, no, now they know. I've told them now. You know, but at the time they didn't know, because I was a young boy. I just wanted to hustle and make the money. But I learned very fast. There's no energy that makes the most money. You know, it's not hard work that makes the most money. So I was in this bus at the time. You know how you close the bus and open the bus up, bro? The bus door fell. I could have fallen with that bus door.
Jesus.
It was hazards of the trade. I could have been maimed for life. That was the last day I did that job. I said, this is not the way. The risk does not equate to the amount of money. So I began to learn risk management, because it doesn't make any sense for me moving bus. For how much? 500 naira. So I now moved to the pure water faculty. So in that process, I was working at the time. My pure water journey was, I left there and I started working in the pure water factory.
Okay.
Right. So that whole 3-month period was just experimental for me. I was working in the pure water factory, and where I was being paid 450 naira per day at the time, which was interestingly $3. Not now, that is different. Right?
Yeah.
But I'll work my great job and I'll earn some monies. At that time, there was a program called, Shiloh in Canaan Land Ota. They were doing Shiloh. And the last year I had heard. So I began to understand problem solving. You see the journey? At Shiloh last year, there was water scarcity. They didn't have enough water for the 300,000 people that came for it. I said, so if this is going to happen this year again, there's a high chance that they'll still need this water at the end of the day. So, bro, I took my salary and I bought a truck of water. But I did not know something else. You see, business is warfare. I did not realize that last year they also had seen their mistakes, and they had overproduced water. So I was young, but I thought this was an opportunity, but I did not carefully interrogate the opportunity, which many people don't do. I didn't properly engage. I understood the market, but I did not know that there were other players in the market, which I was even working in. I was so blinded by my own need to make money from it. So, bro, when the Shiloh started, nobody needed my water.
Chai.
Because they had oversupplied, so no one needed my water. So guess what I did? I had to now find an advantage. I said, if they are selling water, there's one thing they cannot do at scale. They cannot make the water be cold. So I would go 5 a.m. in the morning, inside one deep crook in Songwater, and buy a bag of water. At the time, a bag of ice block was 1,000 naira. Just 1,000 naira. I'll refrigerate my water, and that's how I sold the whole truck. I was not scared to go into the streets, guys. I would roll up my sleeves, and I was selling the water to boss guys who needed the water. I sold I made 4 times the money I invested in at the time. It was 16,000 naira, imagine, 16,000 naira to fill a whole truck of water, a whole big truck.
Wow.
Can't try it now. At the time, right? And I made 4 times. So I began to learn resilience. I had to learn how to pivot fast, because if I didn't get those ice blocks, the water will be there with me. Where will I take it to?
True.
My house.
Lost.
Right? And I had gotten investors. I began to learn fundraising. And I was, 15 or so. I got some of my colleagues that is an opportunity, let's invest. So one guy gave me 6,000, the other guy gave me 6,000. I had my money in this was not more than 4,000 there. Do you understand? But I said, I have to give these guys their profits. So that was the first crowdfunding approach. No one taught me. I learned because my parents hadn't taught me all of these systems. I learned. Thankfully, I succeeded at them, and then that has now. So everyone at every point, no matter where it is you're on the ladder, there are problems there you can begin to solve from where you are.
But people question like, okay, let me go this route first. People question why are we talking about this, and I want to talk about the importance of this. You cannot build a $1 billion business with $1 million mindset.
Absolutely, bro.
So mentally, you have to do more work than physically.
That's right.
I used to make a certain amount while I was working at the cinema, bagging up the popcorn and drink, and now I make way more and I work way less than then. It's because I built myself to grow in that journey.
Yeah.
And having this conversation is very key, because so many young people are getting into business. Entrepreneurship is on the rise. Social media is making it more glitter and glamour. It's your way out of poverty. But most of them don't know that, first of all, you have to refine the mind first before even stepping into that place. Because you don't, you keep crashing it down.
True.
So that brings me to my question now about branding. Personal branding. How is it important for SMEs? I feel like the social media space is saturated with personal branding. Everybody wants to have somebody with the camera following them, and they are shaking everywhere. Even your local government chairman that have not done one road has a media team now, because I feel like social media it's whitewashed with personal branding. But as a business owner, as a young business owner, how do they stand out?
This is really a very interesting question, and I'm trying to frame how I would respond to this. So, as we know, we live in a world of infinite leverage. Now, what I've come to say, we live in a world of infinite leverage. And there are 4 aspects to leverage. It's either you're leveraging code, you're leveraging, everybody who has succeeded has leveraged at least one of these, or all 4 of them. It's either you're leveraging code, you're leveraging community, you're leveraging capital, or the most important one, or one of the most important ones will be content. These are the 4 C's, right? So community, code, capital, and content. Now, because of the ease of access to release content, everyone already, even without content, you already have a personal brand. That's why you say it's almost like it's whitewashed. But most people are doing it wrong, because they are copying and pasting without doing due diligence. In Africa here, most of the times, we focus heavily on demographics without psychography, which is more important than demographics. So it's easy for you to just, everybody's dancing on social media these days. What's the next reel? They're dancing to this. So someone is setting back, they're dancing to get your attention. But that's not the only way to get attention. But they don't know better, because there are 4 levels of wealth transferring. Number 1 is implementation, right? Number 2 would be unification. Number 3 is communication. Number 4 is imagination. Most people don't imagine it. They don't creatively imaginate anything. Right, so once they see that, why do you think that someone starts a business of a shopping complex in the streets? Give it a few years, there's going to be more shopping complexes on that street. Right? We follow the bandwagon. Someone says the
POS.
It's
POS. It's POS.
Everywhere you go, there's a POS center, because we don't want to do the heavy lifting.
Sure.
Right?
I feel that.
This one day,
it didn't always used to be POSs. At the time, it was call centers. Remember?
Yes.
Call centers. It was the lowest hanging fruit. So everyone wanted to do it, right? I don't believe in market saturation, right? It's a myth, right? The market is not saturated. You just
Open POS and know now when it's saturated.
Like,
not.
have you ever tried to go withdraw money? Step out.
Oh my god!
And there are 2 POS there. One will be looking at you with puppy face.
Do you understand?
I'll just tell you, should I divide the money? Because I can't have this on my conscience.
Right.
But moving on, though, sorry.
It's the mentality that we often tend to have for the vast. I don't want to say everyone doesn't have that mentality, but for the vast majority of people, that's how they think. So that would reflect in how they run their businesses as well, right? And you have gone to Balogo Market before, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, if you go on their social media pages, you will not see the difference, right? Everyone is the same thing. They will buy something new, because everyone now has access to a gizmo. everyone can post anything that they like, right? So you don't even know because you're not tracking the metrics, you don't even know how it's hurting your brand. Not everybody should be doing those kinds of things. No doubt, it's not popular information that personal branding is the norm. You need to. People will say that 77% of people who buy from you would rather buy from you if there's a personal brand attached to it. I'll ask the question now. If Tesla said they were launching in Nigeria, would you go for the event?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right? You would go. Why?
Elon Musk.
You see that?
Elon.
But not just that. How eager would you be to go if Tesla is launching and their brand manager is coming, Elon Musk is not coming?
Nah.
But let's say Elon Musk is coming. You will strive to go there because Elon Musk is coming. He is the biggest brand ambassador for Tesla. This is Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world. You here at this level, you don't want to engage with social media content. As I said, content is great leverage. Elon Musk posts the most ridiculous things on Twitter every time.
Right, memes.
Right? He posts there's no reason, but he knows how to capture attention.
He moves markets.
Right? He dropped his perfume brand and sold $1 million overnight. He has the boring company, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So we see the impact that branding has.
In Nigeria, we have a prototype, Tony.
Do you know, he's begun to influence, I will say something that sometimes the reason you're not selling is not because you don't have value. It's because you don't have influential visibility. And many brands are there, right? Many services are there. They have value. We know. You go use. I want to buy food from someone that you're like, oh, but this is your food good, though. But I don't know one that knows. It's almost like they're the best kept secret. But it's not supposed to be. Your business is not meant to be a best kept secret, right? You're meant to. There are three things you're in business. Number one is data. Number two is design. Number three is distribution. Right? It's data, design, and distribution. Most people focus heavily on design. They ignore the data because you cannot separate your personal brand from the data of your market. And this is where many people miss it up, right? Coca-Cola and Pepsi are different brands. They might taste alike, but their marketing is very unique and very different, right? So if you don't understand the data of your personal brand, yourself as the awareness of what I call your identity statement, right? There's an identity statement, there's a mission statement, there's a vision statement, there's a core value. These four things come together for you to carve out a unique identity for yourself. If you don't understand these things, what will you do? If Kelechi Babs is here, Molo, do you think that's the next best thing to do? Right? So that's the mistake they're making. They're not distilling the data for their brand and their market. So they are doing every other thing somebody else does. That's why it looks like there's a whitewash of everybody doing the exact same thing. It's not bad to follow trends, but follow trends based on your own uniqueness in the market. If you sound like every other person, we can't distill your voice.
True.
Yeah, but they say if I don't follow trend, I don't get the numbers, I don't get the metrics.
Follow the trends, but in your own way. I'm not saying don't follow the trends. Follow the trends, but in your own way. If you go on TikTok now, there's always a trending song trending, right?
True.
But the way a Sabinus would inflect his brand and the way a Lai Wasabi would, they're following the same trend, but interpreting it based on their own personalities. They're all TikTok influencers, isn't it? Again, the word influencing comes into play. The core purpose of your personal brand is to create influence by your reach. Is to create influence. If you're not influencing, but you've not started. And how much can dance influence anybody? The people who are influencing, they know what they are doing. Like Tony Olumide started this as amazing craft, and some people are trying to copy it as is, right? You're not where he is. It won't be as impactful. So you're just copying and pasting. I'm not making sure that anybody, or you're just copying and pasting. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But if you find your own way to do it, people recognize you for that, and that becomes your selling point, right? So oversaturation is a myth. You got to, and everyone has a unique, like I said, you have to find out your own unique. I know what is special to me. I know how I sound. Like you said, it's a great day, right? That's what I don't tell anybody good morning. I always say it's a great day. Now people have known me with that, right? And again, people will confuse. They think that another mistake people make is overtly using the same thing everybody is using. Now we know that there's no coding. There are tools like Canva.
Yeah.
Every small business has the same logo. Because it's copy and paste, right? In the beginning, it's okay.
That gold one that is always on the wall.
There's like a rainbow, sir. They have this. It's always, and I'm like, this is not. And they think they've branded. You haven't done it. You're hurting your brand. You need to elevate above that, right? So don't follow the trend without understanding your unique proposition, unique identity, and how the market wants to react to that. This morning, I saw a video of somebody who was driving a vehicle of one of these Nigerian automobiles, one of the Nigerian automobiles. Right? It was
No.
an electric car.
Okay. Okay.
Innocent Motors.
Wow.
Right? It's an electric car. Who was driving it? Right? I don't want to over-publicize them. But you see, the impact of a founder driving his own car throws more weight. And the guy was saying he has driven the thing for like 5 days without having to charge the battery even at once. People will be more tilted to buy because a person is now responsible for. But if they did an advert for you, the new innocent electric car drives 5 hours fast, well, that's their business, right? Those things are not working anymore.
True.
Because humans buy because people buy. So if a person buys, right, it's proof that this thing is working. So your job as a person is to ensure that you're engineering conversions, right? Not dancing on Instagram or any of this. They are not. If it works for you, by all means, do it. The important thing is whatever strategy you are doing, test and ensure the impact of that strategy and keep on refining.
Let's stay on small business owners, for example.
Yeah.
They say in Europe, 70% of their economy is being powered by small business. I don't see the same for Nigeria. I don't see like small business owners being intentional about making sure I stop being a small business by next year, next 2 years. I feel small business in Nigeria is being used as a survival mechanism.
That's right.
If I make $5,000 today, let me use the $5,000 I gotta make better egusi soup. Let's learn. Mama Nkechi, I've sent you that money for egusi soup.
True.
Go and cook
Let's get to it.
But there's no reinvestment into the business for it to grow into a bigger brand. And I've sat down with people that they have like $1 billion portfolios by divine mercy, and I've also sat down with people that are trying to build up their business. You could see the gap. So my question is, I want to level up. I want to stop being a small business owner. I want to sit on boards. I want my business to be here next 10 years. I want to pass it down to the generation. What steps do I need to follow apart from just building my personal brand to make sure I get there?
It takes 10 years to build a successful business. 10 years. And to be fair, most people in our climb don't have that much grit to it. There's so many bills that are coming, man. Particularly when you have a child, you have children, the bills keep coming at you. So sometimes it's quite difficult for you to scale that business for many reasons. That is, I've tried to dive deep into. I have a lot of consulting with small businesses every now and then, and I've seen that sometimes the greatest challenge is vision. And vision is not what you're seeing, it's how you're seeing it, right? For the most part, most of them, like you say, are looking at it as a survival mechanism, and you can't blame them because they must eat. Like you would tell me that, I mean, you're chasing after the bread, right? But in spite of that, there are proven methodologies for you to scale and to grow your business. And that's why I shared the first 4 key things, right? First is implementation. At the level of every business is you are self-implementing for the most part. You move to the next level of unification and you're getting people to do what you're trying to do, right? Everybody as a small business owner, mostly they say there are 1 to 5 people working in that business, right? Then you move from there to communication. It gets to a point where you leave that level. You're no longer handling any day task. And then the last level is you're just there imagining how the company would grow. That's the highest level. Most CEOs never get to that point because they're still dealing with as a CEO of the business, you're not meant to be working in the business. You're meant to be working on the business, right? But most people see themselves working in the business, so they lose foresight of where the business can go to because they're focusing on where the business is right now. Your job is to always step out. I will use an analogy that for every time you're trying to cut your lawn, if you're standing on the lawn, you don't see clearly the uneven places. You have to step out and view from a different prism. Then you can see how uneven that particular lawn is. It's the same thing for any business that you're running. As a CEO or as a founder, right, your job is to consistently see how the company can go forward without you working inside of it. So people say your job is fundraising. Because, see, like I said, the 4 areas of leverage are what? It's code, community, content, and the 4th is capital. That's your job. So most businesses, they actually need the capital, but they don't know how to secure this capital. So where would they go? Nowhere. The lines of credit that we are exposed to here can be very harsh, right? This part of the interest rates are significantly harsher. So you have to find ingenuine ways to stay afloat and still generate revenue coming in. Like I said, remember the first business I started? How did I do it?
Yeah.
I got 3 other guys to partner with me. Because I was able to condense. Your job is to crystallize the vision that everyone who hears you believes in it. You can't build a team who believes in vision without that skill. So your job now is learn, again, the third part of wealth creation is what? Is communication. As a CEO, what does Elon Musk do the most?
Communicate.
What do you think Elon Musk is going to input a line of code? Or Zuckerberg? When Zuckerberg started, he was coding, right? He saw that the thing reached a level, he has to now unify, get other people to code for him.
True.
Right? After that level, what? His job is just to stay and communicate. Now he's only thinking where the company can go. Everyone has to get to those 4 levels, but most small businesses don't. They never pass implementation level. They never pass it. So those 4 steps are critical. Implement, unify, master the communication to garner that team. We're building, or it's the same thing we do there, right? The vision started with just myself. Get other guys who understand the vision. You're not telling them, you're helping them understand the vision. It will take a lot of work to get to that point. Then begin to seek lines of credit. And you always must raise money before you need it, Seth. The conversation must, and because it's hard to raise money in these climes, money is raised in relationships. So again, community. So these are the things you can't skip any of these things. To grow your business, you need capital, you need community, you need content, and you need coding. Most small businesses will never get there, particularly, and you can't blame them too. And not every business will be $1 billion business. That's the honest truth, right? We don't expect them to be. But for the most part, Africa has a model, and it will keep on shifting. It will keep on adjusting. We're the youngest continent for crying out loud, guys, right? And the continent, they are getting wiser. Not only younger, they're getting wiser.
Yeah.
People that are working on our company, they're all here in Nigeria. Before now, you can't get the quality of work you get from these guys here, because we have access to the internet. People can learn, and then you can take it up from there.
So we're talking backstage. Not today. I think there was a point in time when we're having the conversation, and we made we made an inference as regards your ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, how a lot of founders just focus on the funds from investors, and you talked about raising capital from communities, and that's like the core focus of a lot of founders. They forget about the markets. You can as well raise capital from customers, and Akin Alabi would always say, the founder of Narabet, that's the juiciest kind of capital you can ever raise from customers, because you've acquired it. It's not a debt. You owe no one. Though corporate governance will come into play for you to be able to make sure you spend it appropriately. But what I'm saying in essence is, the tech ecosystem, you don't always focus on customer acquisition. You focus on the next raise, on investors. But the market is actually where the major money is. So can we find a balance to that?
Yes. So many thoughts are crossing my mind now, because I mentioned 3 things earlier. That every brand to scale is 3 things. It's data, design, and then distribution. Most people start building distribution too late, which is very dangerous, right? In the order of importance, it is data, distribution, then design. But we focus on design, distribution, then data. It's so wrong. You need to reverse the system. Don't build a product for a market you're not even aware of, right? And for the most part, people first build a product and not try to test the market before they start. That's why in startups, there are simple things called wait lists, right? To even prove your idea, to be sure that this thing, you need to sample that idea across. When we're starting with, or it's the same thing we did. I tested the market first within my immediate circle to see, does this make sense to them? Right? I extended beyond that circle to other people. Does it make sense to them? When I saw that out of every 10 that I speak with, 7 of them say, wow, how can I download this app? I said, this is what we can build, because now I'm getting feedback from questioning the market. That's data. Then we begin to design for that market. What if you notice all banking apps are the same thing? Why? It's design. Because if they make it different, you will not understand how to use it. So whether it's all the Fugas banks that you know about, if you log into it's the same way you log in, the same way they don't ever teach you how to use your banking app, because there's a design formula that they're following through it. So it's understanding the market. Now I'm building design the market understands, right? But you see, that distribution is the most important thing you can ever do. Start distribution before you even be your product. Do you know that, for instance, there are sometimes, as my personal brand, because I'm a consultant, there are certain products we build only after the market has shown us interest. Let me give you an instance. The first book I wrote, I hadn't written a word of that book when I started selling it. Not one word. I had about 4,000 or 5,000 guys who were following me at the time. I was sharing knowledge every day. And I put up, hey guys, I'm writing this book called 10x your influence, impact, and income with your personal brand, right? I got a graphics guy, designed this thing. Let me even see how the market will react to it. He designed the book, bro. I got 500 orders in the first month, right? 500, and I think the book was 5K at the time. I can't remember, right? But you see, when I saw that there was a demand for people
You
who
wrote
wanted that book, the pressure from the money I've collected forced me to write the book. You see that? But many people
I like that business.
and it's a better model.
Yeah, actually.
Right. Even just recently, I have a coaching program that I run for entrepreneurs who are in faith tech business. That's my forte.
Yeah.
So what do? We develop the funnels. You must master how to build funnels as a business owner. Even what are you doing? Distribution is so important. So we have a plan to mentor 20 people in our community. How did we do it? I organized a webinar first, a free webinar, which will serve as a distribution mechanism, right? We first run post and sponsored as to drag people into that net. We had like 1,000 registrations in that, and I hosted the class. And of course, I was peace fire. When I was done speaking, we got people who register. I had not taught one line of that class yet. I've developed the product with the table of content. This is what I'm going to be sharing with you. I already know I can deliver on that mandate, right? And I showed people, this is what we're trying to do. Are you interested? And they paid. But many businesses are trying to perfect the product before they test the market. That's why that's wrong.
Tell me about it.
That's wrong. And that's why they'll always struggle. So it's data, understand everything about your market. Design, begin to build as that market understands. And Africa, our culture is very different though. You know how we are in Africa. We cannot begin to dive into understanding the psychography of the African market. That's why data is so key. It's not the demographics. You can have 1 million people who you say are the bourgeoisies, for instance. But bro, those 1 million will not buy from you. Why? Because the way they are thinking about it is very different.
And you don't know how they're thinking.
And you don't know how they're thinking. So it's more important to even know how they're thinking than you can interrupt their thought process with your solution. When we're building, the same thing we did. We figured out that, hey, we're building a health tech brand. Who's going to need it? We can't be for people on the lower part of the ladder just yet. We'll get there eventually. But in the beginning, they're not our targets because we need to ensure that we are getting high traffic from people that we can really supply. What do they need? Bro, the middle class in Nigeria, there's healthcare inflation, meaning that they're spending every year more on their health than they were last year by 17-18%. Right? Now, that's standard. The middle class and their resources, they are edgingly going lower. The economy is almost obliterating the middle class.
You know,
right? I'm just saying, just so you know, right?
Yeah,
but these guys are already used to a particular lifestyle.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go below that. So brands that will survive is brands that are catering to that declining capital of that market, but building solutions that they can afford that will still help them enjoy the same lifestyle. So because of what we could do, we began to aggregate that, hey, we can use numbers to bring down the price for you. So your healthcare is not as expensive as you need. And then we are now solving preventive problem because they now know that, oh boy, it's better for me to be healthy than to be curing sickness. So we began to interrupt their thought process by providing a health tech solution for them that you don't have to be sick because these are the things we can provide for you. So I understand the market. I know that African population, 60% of them are young, but they're not all your market. You still have to still distill it. How are they thinking about these things? Most businesses don't do this. Right, you have money now, and they always think they need capital. No, capital is never the first thing you need. It's data. It's data. People always say that data is the new gold or new or whatever. It is always data. Once you can it's not seeing the data, is accurately interpreting the data to fit your context. Right. So people have access. Statistica is free. You can see anything. But how are you interpreting? Like we were talking this morning.
Yeah.
Talked about the basis points from the US and how because of what that basis points means.
Yeah.
There'll be an influx of capital coming here to the startup frontier.
Yeah.
Many people cannot think like that. You're thinking about it rightly.
So I love the fact that you've mentioned Africa. I love the fact that you've mentioned the Federal Reserve in the US. They cut their rates by 0.5%. It used to be 5.5%.
Yes.
And right now they've reduced it, their interest rate. And I want us to talk about Africa because I've had conversations with you and I want Africans to know what you told me in private. Kelechi, we're talking about Africa, and he told me how Africa is the next frontier. Is like the next best thing since agege bread. And I need Africans to really understand, because one of the reasons why we found ourselves in these states, in the global south, is because of identity. We don't know who we are. We don't know the power we wield. We don't know how much of a force we are in the global marketplace. And right now we're seeing the signs. And when you see the signs, if you don't act, then you just might be repeating the same cycle our parents did or our forefathers did. Let Africans know who they truly are. And all this, with this data, we're going to be experiencing capital coming in from the West, coming into Africa, because the money market there is no more as interesting as it used to be. People are no longer making money from T-bills, from bonds in the US. Even in the UK too, they are following the same pattern. Japan, see what happened in Japan, they reduced their rate. So all this market, investors will be living there. Where will they go to? It's called currency because it flows. So it needs to flow somewhere else. And it looks like the data is giving us an informed perspective as to where it is flowing to. And it looks like it's Africa. What is your take about all this? And how can Africans position for this? You're Pan-Africanist. That's one thing people don't know. Yeah. That's why I'm putting you in the spot. Yeah.
I love Africa so much because, first of all, I'm from two African countries at the same time. I'm both Nigerian and I'm both Ghanaian. So I see things from different perspectives. And I think it's very intelligent by design because it helps me to see the heart of these two nations and see the perspective from these places. And I see the potential, right? I see the potential. It's enormous. Bro, the rest of the world is growing old. Yeah. In the UK, they're growing older. Even though in Africa, we're growing younger, not because we did it intentionally. We did not do family planning well. Right? Right? But the impact of that is still in front of us. And for the most part, Africans have not understood the power in being Africans. We are best. I mean, people always say, how many natural disasters do we have in Africa? The only natural disaster we have is corruption, right? And again, corruption is everywhere. You want to think corruption, go to India, every nation has corrupt elements in them. But the only thing is we're not growing faster than our corruption rates, right? So it's impacting our individual growth. Someone said that Nigeria is the overall. If you were to split how much Nigeria alone as each of us are owing, you're probably owing 600K that you don't even know about, right? Because of the overall debt. But every nation also owes, and I'm very careful with the perspective I'll share. People have seen Africa as very unintelligent for the most part, in historically so. So, and if they believe that we are very high on spiritism, right? And I won't decry that. Yes, we are high. But I was asking you the other day, people say everywhere you go in Africa, you see a church, isn't it? Right? And to be fair, sometimes in the same building you see a couple churches, right? But how many churches are in Nigeria really? By data, how many churches are in Nigeria? And I asked the person, what do you think? If I ask you now, Kelechi, how many churches do you think are in the UK?
I don't have access to that.
Yeah, I know you would not have, but if you just hypothetically, you might think maybe like 1,000 churches, because we don't see that. Because even our Nigerian churches are being exported to go there to deliver the mandate. Bro, how many churches are in America? But do you know by data, Nigeria has about 16,000 churches only.
The one that the government knows of.
Yeah, no, I mean, but they have to register. I'm not talking about those
churches register.
Churches
no,
register.
For real.
Yeah, there's data.
You know how many churches are in one corner in one small estate?
They register.
Bro, you actually have to register because
they do.
Even just for noise, that's why the government is not shutting them down. It's only shutting because of noise pollution, not because of registration. They have to register as NGOs. Right? So there are about 16,000 of non-governmental organizations that are churches. Churches are registered as NGOs. In Nigeria, yes, 16,000. In the UK, bro, there are 45,000. Did you know that? In America, there are over 200,000 churches, bro. Did you know that? So where will we get the perspective that all we focus on is just church and not education? And then you begin to see people blame the Nigerian church and all that. I don't want to dive deep into that, but we need to question the narratives that we openly endorse. If you're not questioning the narrative, you're not interpreting the situation very well. And that's what has hit us hard as a continent. Which other continent has as much mineral resources as we do have here? Forget the leadership. Power is going to pivot from the leaders to the people. Even brands now, brands like Nike are no longer owned by Nike. They're now owned by the people, the community that is purchasing their brands. If the community wants it, they'll give it to them. That's why Apple had a 16% drop in their purchasing power. Why? Because people don't want that thing they're delivering anymore. Apple iPhone 16 had a 16% drop in purchases. Because the market feedback is, what are you people doing? I have no desire to switch this phone to a higher version of that. Why? Because it's the exact same thing. So now brands are owned by the people and now nations begin to understand that the power does not belong to the people in government, but the people actually hold the power. Because now, because of what they are doing and pushing the youth aside, youth are finding other ways to thrive. They're getting global audience. We have people in my circle who are earning thousands of dollars every month, who they don't care about what's happening in the Nigerian government. But eventually, see, the mass population of that would trigger a subconscious thought that we can do Well, are you not providing your own power? I'm paying for my power, my water, my light. Everybody's trying to do solar. We're bypassing, even though you cannot completely bypass, right? But now we're seeing that the power is really in the people. And because the rest of the world is going older, means that their energy levels are depleting.
Yes.
But we are getting younger. We're not only younger, we're still getting even younger still, right? So soon enough, the world's capital of energy will be where?
Africa.
And the energy is not below our soul, it's what's beneath our ear, it's between our ears. It's not what's between our feet, it's what's between our ears.
So you're saying if you are the best man in what you do, the world will find you.
Bro. Always. What did China do? What did China do really?
And India.
What did Indians do? If you're looking for tech developers, bro, number one place you're looking for is India, right? But Africa is edging into that sphere.
Yeah.
We're building. Some of our developers are, even though they're in Germany, they're Africans here. Go to the workforce in the UK. Many Africans are, all this visa thing you're talking about, they can't stop immigration. It's impossible. Who will take care of your systems? Who? The only issue now is how we think. The Jews in America, bro, 1.4% is the population of Jews in America. But on the billionaire list, the Jews are 50% of that. 50%. This is proven data. Check it out. The Jews are 1.4%. But the blacks in America, the average Jewish home earns from $250,000. The average Jewish home. The average African home earns $20,000.
Wow. That's 10%.
That's 10% because
That means, are you saying we're delivering 10% value less than the Jews?
no, that's the thing, It's not that we're delivering the less value. We're just positioned wrongly.
I was listening to PBD podcast while I was prepping for this, and he said something. He said blacks are less likely to become multi-millionaires than any other race in the world.
Absolutely.
Like if you are born a black man, forget it.
But I think
Asian
that narrative
woman.
will change.
Asians and whites are 4 times more likely to become multi-millionaires before a black person is. But that narrative is already changing because we're now realizing that excellence is a global language that everybody speaks, right? Look at your podcast here now. You're inviting people to come up here. It's growing. I think one of your last had over 1 million views because once it's quality, it will scale. We're no longer building only for Africa. The product we're building is not just for Africa. It's not only for Nigeria or Ghana. We are 1.2 billion human beings here. These people also need our products, right? Now, because of even the stringent laws in importation, nations are now beginning to look at what's happening in Mali. They're looking to build inside solutions.
True.
So Africans can purchase that. When I think Tesla wanted to come build and buy our lithium. He said, no, come build the lithium factory here. So even though sometimes our leadership can be off for their own person, but they are already tilting towards what it should be.
True.
So we'll start seeing massive developments. The only issue we have is capital management.
We had that
We
with
don't
chocolate.
have-
We had that with cocoa. That's why the price of cocoa rose in astronomical numbers. We're saying
Absolutely.
that, the price of cocoa throughout this year. And because Ivory Coast, which is one of the leading producers of cocoa, they had to wake up and they started controlling the entire supply chain. You get telling those chocolate companies, you have to, they forced the value of cocoa to increase globally, and also told some of those chocolate companies to come build their manufacturing factory in Africa because you're using the product. You talked about lithium.
Yes. And that's not about to change.
Yeah.
It's only going to keep you better. Yeah.
So moving on, let's talk about Oris and the health tech sector.
Yes.
For somebody that doesn't know Oris, what problem is Oris trying to solve in the market?
We are a gateway into health. I want to frame it in a way that everybody can understand. I don't want to use the whole pitch there. Because sometimes we as founders also overcomplicate the matter. The grammar.
Yeah.
Right? We're simply a gateway into accessing all wellness services in your country. Right? That's what we are. So whether you're in Kenya, whether you're in Ghana, whether you're in Nigeria, we're that gateway that helps you access all preventive and what's it called? So what that means is you're here in Nigeria, you're a gym enthusiast, right? But also you want to travel to another country. You don't even know how you want to travel and keep up your work rate in that country, right?
yeah.
You take us with you. We've already unlocked all the value you need in that country. So you want to order for a meal from your hotel room, we can do that for you. You want to find out where the next best gyms are, we can do that for you. You want to consult with a physician in that country, we can do that for you. So we already have partnerships in Kenya, here in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Uganda, and also in Rwanda as well. So we are helping you unlock wellness in these cities. And also because sometimes working out alone can be daunting, but connecting you with communities of like-minded people. This is what Nike does. This is what Red Bull does. Do you know, I was studying something yesterday, guys, that Red Bull actually owns Leeds Football Club. And this small Leeds, the country where it's headquartered, have barely 2,000 people in that village. And this same narrative will also happen to Africa. I'm so passionate about Africa. Don't worry. I know we're talking about Oris, but see, this is Africa. We must build. So we're actually building for the African market. Something like what we're doing is also in India. And the company in India, they has scaled to over $1 billion. They're a unicorn. Building what we're doing, the gateway to accessing everything health. So we have a marketplace. You want to order for food, it's right there, but only healthy options, right? And because of the numbers we're aggregating, we can get you lower prices, which again is targeted to the middle class, because now we're helping you spend on the same things you were spending on before, but you're spending less on them.
But I see another market when it comes to Oris. I don't know, because I'm a sport business enthusiast. It works massively with the African sport industry.
Oh yes, I agree.
Because it helps keep your players in check.
Yes.
They can access their healthcare, they can access their meals, so it takes them away from just coming to the football game and playing their football game, then keeping them in check there. But my question is the health tech industry big enough to bet a unicorn?
Yes.
I go to the gym almost every morning. If I tell people if I don't work out, I'm grumpy all day. My energy is low. Sometimes you call me and you say, "Why you sounding like that?" I won't done that. So
and you've not eaten. It's not only gym, food.
So the question is, there are some people that we see. I don't know if it's a subscription service. There are some people that come to the gym and they leave the gym. They don't come back again and stuff like that. The question is, how can Oris build a thriving community for gym enthusiasts like myself, and how does it plan to get to the unicorn status if it has any ambition to?
Yes, absolutely, we do. First of, is the market? Can the market give us that? Absolutely. The market, the health tech market in Africa globally is worth trillions. And that's what we say, we're unifying the entire market. In Africa alone, the health tech market is about 400 billion by different aggregators. It's a huge market. For the data that we've seen significantly much more of is fintech, right? Even that, I have my conservations around how fintech has been built here in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, because most of them are domiciled in Lagos, which is wrong. When Opay came to Nigeria, they didn't start in Lagos. They started outside Lagos and captured the market outside Lagos, then they came into Lagos. But every fintech company wants to start here in Lagos to battle a small market, right? A very tiny market. That's why most of them they're not profitable, and they will never be profitable, because they're already solving some of the problems they're trying to solve again. So it's just a way for them to raise money and move on to the next thing. So that's why the money will not work out. But when we thought about our building, we saw that no one is building like what we're building, first of all. Right, so with one Oris membership, you can access all the wellness services. Your gym, you can. Today you're on the island, you don't want to work, you don't want a gym in a new location. With our membership, you can access any of the gyms in Lagos, or in Port Harcourt, or in Abuja. Right, you don't have to now subscribe to wherever, because we have a membership. You can access these facilities, right? It means you're always exposed to new communities as often as you can. But also, just within the app, we're building a community focused base where, because you like to work out a certain way, there are people who connect you to and suggest, just like social media only suggests you people you should be friends with, will suggest you people who you can also be friends with, right? And engage within your climb. But the dangers we're having in that is we don't want to expose people to the wrong people. So the vetting process is stringent, and we're trying to work around how we can do that more effectively, right? So that's how we're planning to do this.
You're building a super app for wellness?
Yes, it's a super app for wellness. And it's not only just for gyms, right?
Yeah.
There's also for like healthy meals. There's also for a ton of other what's it called, marketplace to buy all your shopping, everything health and wellness. Just think of insurance inclusive as well.
Right.
Okay, so let us come back to Africa.
Yes.
I have my reasons why I'm talking about
Yes,
Africa.
Africa
The
is-
mind needs to really change.
Right.
Apart from the data that was saying capital importation, what else is the reason? What other reason do you see that makes you believe that Africa is about to take over?
Because the new generation is also rising. right? And how comfortable are you with what the previous generation has done? Right, I like to say millennials are we are well positioned because we've seen the past, we've seen the future, are right in the middle of both of them. Right, we've engaged with typewriters, we've also engaged with computers and our smartphones. The boomers don't have that luxury because every generation is condensed and rewired to fit what their generation context is. So Africa now, because of the new generation that is rising, the millennials, the Gen Zs, the Gen As, right, and probably the Gen Bs, right. These guys are coming with a different mentality and different mindset. They are self-sufficient. Most of the people who jump into politics are not going there to serve, they're going there to corrupt the system. But these guys who are on the outside, we need to begin to position and infiltrate the system with quality people who are actually there to serve. And I think that the passion for governance is increasing. Right, I've seen many of my friends who want to get into, and these guys are of sound minds. They're not there to try to steal it because they already know how to generate resources for themselves. So they're not there for personal aggrandizement. So I think that the systems are changing, and because the generational perspectives are changing, we'll see a shift in leadership values and leadership in activities. That's on one side. Other things, labor. Beyond capital coming in, because we're the youngest, we have the energy. So who's going to be the labor force of the entire world? It's still us. So they have to come to us. Our job is now, so your job as an African is to be skilled. They will find you. Hitherto, it used to be very hard. Even payment solutions in Africa is hard to come to use in Africa. But now there are systems that are bypassing that for Africans actually doing the work, because we were known as the crime center initially.
Yeah.
But even at that, the numbers also, Nigeria is 5th in the world. We almost sound like they're number 1 when it comes to crime in the world, but Nigeria is actually 5th in the world, right? Even though that's a very bad place to be in, but we hope that number keeps on reducing. So the imaging is beginning to be changed. People like you and I who are creating these materials, when did you ever see a podcast like this hitherto, who is telling our stories in our own way? As this narrative begins to go out, it's reshaping the mindset of Africans. We're now thinking ourselves better, right? We're thinking about ourselves better, not thinking ourselves as better than any other person. But we can now, I'll share a story, just quickly, a story in scripture, Ecclesiastes. The Bible says that there was a poor wise man. It's very dangerous to be in that perspective, where his wisdom saved the city, but nobody remembered him because he was a poor. Even though he was wise, no one reacted to his wisdom because he was still poor. And for the vast majority, that's what's been going on. But look at a man like Solomon. He was wise, but he was rich. Everybody will still come and listen to his wisdom and bring gifts with it. The story in the Bible again of David and Goliath. Who killed the giant? There were other soldiers on that field, but it was a little David that went there and he brought that giant down. Is what I see happening in Africa here. A generation is rising that we can tackle the big problems because we have the skill, the resources, and the mental awareness to tackle and charge our worth. Before now, you are scared to charge what you're worth, right? But now you know that if I charge $5,000 for this job, they will pay for it. What would you do?
I'll charge 10.
So that awareness is helping to shape our subconsciousness. We have influencers who are working for foreign brands. They're no longer charging in naira, they're charging in dollars, right? And there's some real estate places in Nigeria that are charging in dollars right now. There's some places in the once your rent is in dollars, right? That's also going to, how much do our entertainers earn? It didn't used to be the case before. A Burna Boy can go and earn. He's not 5 million naira. He's in dollars. We heard a rumor of how Rema charged 5, even though that's not the truth, but he would have charged $100,000 to $200,000 for that show. That didn't should be the case, but that's showing possibilities of what's to come, right? And will happen. I have some developers who are working internationally, they're earning $10,000, $20,000 here in Nigeria every month, not every year, every month. So you see those possibilities are happening, and then it will scale from there.
But they would say I think one of the good things about this present generation, the younger one, is they are ready to work.
That's right.
But
they don't have a choice. It's not like they have a choice. That's the thing. The energy is diverted to getting results.
Yeah, true.
They are ready to work, but you could quote unquote their work culture is what you have a problem with. They are bringing new style into the work culture and
the Gen Zs,
yeah. You cannot talk to a Gen Z after 6 p.m. They'll clearly tell you, I'm not working today, I'll treat it tomorrow. And you don't have any other option than to keep them on the team because they know how good it is.
Yeah.
So, on the case of African and African youth, do you think that the current and governance, we look at governance in Africa, in the African context, and I will make 2 references. One, there's an election happening this Saturday. If you are watching this, maybe it has overstepped. The governor said it's a do or die affair. And nobody came outside to say, okay, that's wrong. Two, there's a governor that has been chased around by the EFCC.
True.
And a president sitting governor is escorting him to go and answer fraud case that was committed against the state.
Yeah.
We are seeing classical state capture in African politics. How can your people get involved and they feel heard? We saw the last election. We saw how it goes across all spare. We saw what happened in one of the states, in the oil-rich states. We are seeing what's happening there. Just to stay on this for now,
True.
young people getting involved in politics and business, because you can't talk politics, you don't talk business. We have seen how policies affect you as a human being.
True.
So the question is, how do young people get involved? How do they get a voice to command what they need to take back the continent?
There are many factors to think about this, because first of all, the young people will not always be young, and the old people that are there, they are passing away. These people in government now, 20, 30 years, they're no longer there. Who's going to take over?
It looks like they will still be there.
No, they won't be there. No, because I get it's a joke, yes, but
Yeah,
indeed,
just kidding.
some of them are 80, 90. Nature would play its natural course,
Yeah, go on.
right? So naturally, we'll get in. My issue is not in how they're getting in. It's not that are they not getting or not. It's why. So we need to begin to reinforce the right beliefs for those who are going to getting there, because naturally they will getting there. You will get in there if you want to apply. But what's more powerful is not again. It's. I mean, maybe we'll have a conversation on another, because I think our time is already up.
No.
But
I mean, you can answer this question.
the quality of thought leaders we need to have there are not the ones that are going for personal aggrandizement, and that has to now go back to our systems of educating these people, because everybody that's going there is, I won't go chop my own national cake. If we don't switch from that mentality, we'll keep on representing the same people that are there over and over again. And the power truly is not only in the voting, it's in the membership. We've talked about this all the time. Young people need to begin to be part of parties, right? Because again, your vote is only as powerful as the choices you're meted. So if you're meted with 3 bad choices, your vote is only endorsing those bad choices. But you can begin to be in a party segment where you can begin to navigate through who becomes the one who is going to be the person you would cast your vote for. Most of us are on the receiving end. Is who is on the ballot we end up voting for. You're just looking for the lesser of all evils to vote for. But what makes you a real decision maker is if you're a party member and we are certain that the person we're putting there has the right thinking faculty. In some climes, they are training the minister to be a minister since when he's 5. Since when he's 6, 7, 8, that's all he's been trained. They're training this guy to be. Don't you what movies?
Yeah.
The king isn't trained to be a king 1 year before he ascends the throne. He's trained to be a king. Or football.
Kennedy School of Governance. What's the name?
What
of
of
it?
football? When do you start training a footballer? When the musicians start singing. But it's only in politics we only get them whenever they get there. The training has to start from the foundational level, and we have to build systems that can begin to train people that when they get in there, they're going to solve problems.
Kelechi, part 2, right?
Yeah, for
Can you
sure.
set the date?
I will text you.
It's going to be on a Friday. Yeah? And it's going to be, oh my goodness, it's a lots of conversation. You see why at first I was trying to say, okay, let us investigate his thought process. Let him teach us how to think, how to really create a healthy thought process that would make you become a value-based individual. And I think that's the way out of any rabbit hole of poverty or any state you found yourself, whether you're at the bottom of the pyramid. It's been a great conversation. I want to say thank you very much, Dave Obada. Thank you very much. I also want to thank you personally on my own. I want to thank you personally. You've been a brother, you've been a friend,
Thank you,
you've
bro.
been a mentor. Thank you.
As well, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you've gotten value from this episode of the Business Podcast. I don't even have any much to say. Just go, whatever you've watched, just know you've learned nothing. Go back and watch again, for it to stick, for you to be able to suck out the juice from this. Kelechi.
You know, every time we do this podcast, it's
Yeah.
a proud moment for me. Because I'll tell my kids, go and Google me. Go and Google what I've done if they try to misbehave. so
That's right.
they'll right through your body. They will see their father with sound minds, and they'll be proud of what I say. So if I'm talking to you, you're listening. So it's always fun having one of the best minds in Nigeria. Always fun bringing the best mind. But we can't really do this if our community don't grow. So that's why we tell people engage, like, share, subscribe, share to a friend, share to a friend, share to a friend, and let's just build a thriving community. If we are 1 million people, the change will be enormous.
It's called the Growth Hub. Go to all social media platforms. Join the Growth Hub community. We share access to fundraising opportunities. We also give you access to tech jobs around the ecosystem, and also vital information that can help you better become the best version of yourself. Also, like, share, subscribe. This is the Frankly Business Podcast, and that's how we're signing out. Cheers. I'll see you at the other side of the next episode. Cheers.